We've got a lot of updates for you on this week's episode of the Adiation Central Weekly Show, and it all starts right now.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Adiation Central Weekly Show. I'm Andrew. I'm here with my co-host David. For everyone who is listening for the first time, welcome to the show. If it isn't, welcome back.
Lots of news this past week to tackle, though, as we first up come up with the Air Force. They've got some big news. After years of development and planning, the United States Air Force and Northrop Grumman have announced the rollout for the B-21 Raider this December. The B-21 is a next-generation strategic bomber that the United States has been developing and will be rolled out at Plant 42, located in Palmdale, California. The Air Force awarded the B-21 contract to Northrop Grumman back in 2015, and it's reported that 6 Raiders are in their final stages of development. B-21 is a long-range stealth bomber designed to replace the B-1 and B-2 bombers the Air Force currently flies. The B-2 is the Air Force's current stealth bomber, and 21 were initially built. However, only 20 are in service after an accident in 2007. Meanwhile, the B-1 is a supersonic bomber designed to deliver its payload and then get out of enemy airspace as fast as humanly possible. The Air Force is rumored to have about at least 80 of these nuclear-capable bombers ordered so far, and they will be stationed at different military bases across the country.
In the announcement, Northrop Grumman Aeronautics Systems General Manager and Sector Vice President Doug Young said, "The B-21 is the most advanced military aircraft ever built and is the product of pioneering innovation and technological excellence. The B-21 rollout will mark an important step in the development timeline, but is by no means the end." The first flight of the B-21 is expected to take place sometime next year in the Air Force Test Center, and Air Force Operational Test and Evaluation Center will make this possible.
Well, this is a huge step, as the Air Force Chief of Staff General Brown said, quote, We last introduced a new bomber over 30 years ago. The B-21 Raider will provide formidable combat capability across a range of operations in highly contested environments of the future, unquote. While the specific date in December isn't public at this time, we do know that the event will be held at Plant 42, located in Palmdale, California. Plant 42 is also where the B-2 rollout occurred as well about 30 years ago, as of next year. And the B-21, though, is expected to be one of the most sophisticated aircraft out there, period.
Yeah, that's right. And this is the second bomber Northrop Grumman has conducted, as they were also the primary contractors for the B-2 Spirit. The F-117 program was led by Lockheed Martin, but all strategic bombers in the Air Force inventory have been developed by Northrop Grumman. As you can imagine, security around Plant 42 area will be very strict, as the Air Force Department of Defense leadership would probably be present.
That's for sure, and this is truly a remarkable event as the Air Force plans to reveal its new bomber to the public and the world. I'm excited to see the specifications it has, and of course, I hope that it will never be used in combat. It's also just a quick little note as well. Northrop Grumman so far has the contracts on all stealth bombers so far for strategic aircraft, so not just all bombers straight up. But then again, we hope that this aircraft will never have to be used for combat reasons. But really, really interesting to see the B-21 be generated, being developed out of Plant 42. The capabilities it's going to have for future combat opportunities that it may face. And also the fact that it could address some of the concerns that we had with B-2s and B-1s previously. So obviously a lot of different aspects of the aircraft aren't public at this time, but really interesting to see what's going to come out in the future.
Yeah, I hope so as well, but unfortunately another hope may not become true. Airline tickets in general are set to increase in price due to the lack of refining capacity and the financial state of airlines. These issues come from the after effects from the pandemic and higher jet fuel prices caused by the increase in demand for fuel. This is a result of refinery closures and a significant push toward renewable fuels, lowering the supply as inflation increases again. Despite consumers paying higher ticket prices, this doesn't mean airlines are making a profit necessarily.
The financial state of many airlines suggests that the airlines are still making money as air traffic does increase from the pandemic timeframe, but they are passing on the costs, and this doesn't mean it's not going to hurt for the airlines and for consumers and passengers. However, another contributing factor is Russia's announcement of military mobilization, and a draft has now been announced by Russia to support a war effort in Ukraine. On Wednesday, Russian President Vladimir Putin announced a partial military mobilization in Russia as the invasion of Ukraine continues.
Yeah, a big concern is the conflict spreading, which would further fuel inflation, putting more pressure on the supply. Oil prices jumped up by more than 2% after Putin's announcement, following concerns of an escalation of the war in Ukraine and squeezing oil and gas supplies. Qatar Airlines said it is ready to invest in sustainable aviation fuel on the condition that it is reasonably priced. And it's fine paying a bit more for gas, but they can't pay 4 or 5 times the normal price.
Right.
And many airlines hold similar views too, but the $1 million question right now is if jet fuel and oil prices can get back under control.
That's right, and that's something we'll continue to track in the future. But flying electric commercial aircraft is an expected reality by the end of the decade for sure. We discussed this on last week's episode, but there's been further announcements now from Air Canada as well. And, they have some announcements coming up on that. And I think you have the information on that, Andrew?
That's right. Air Canada has agreed to purchase 30 ES-30 electric hybrid aircraft from Heart Aerospace. A Swedish startup company, the ES-30 is a 30-seat battery-powered aircraft with 4 electric motors using lithium-ion batteries as a primary source of power. It also has 2 sustainable aviation fuel-powered turbo generators as reserves. This design is a reserve hybrid configuration where the pair of turbo generators can also be used during cruise on longer flights to complement the electrical power provided by the batteries. It has a range of 200 kilometers or 124 miles and a ceiling of 20,000 feet. There are also extended range features for 400 kilometers with 30 passengers and ability to fly up to 800 kilometers with 25 passengers. The ES-30's battery is expected to maintain a charging time of 30 to 50 minutes.
I'll take the quote. Michael Rousseau, President and Chief Executive Officer of Air Canada, said in a press release, the introduction into our fleet of the ES-30 electric regional aircraft from Heart Aerospace will be a step forward to our goal of net zero emissions by the year 2050. Already, Air Canada is supporting the development of new technologies such as sustainable aviation fuels and carbon capture to address climate change. We are now reinforcing our commitment by investing in revolutionary electric aircraft technology, both as a customer for the ES-30 and as an equity partner in Heart Aerospace.
A key feature the ES-30 is expected to include the Garmin G3000 integrated flight deck for the cockpit. The G3000 will focus on interfacing the aircraft's battery management system, motor control units, and other electric drive train components to the G3000 computers. A test flight of a 1:5 scale model was completed in their previous ES-19, a smaller and older variant of the ES-30, which was also powered by off-the-shelf electric motors. At the time, its electric drivetrain had been in ground testing for more than a year. No other details about the timeline for the first flight or ground test of a full-scale ES-30 aircraft has been released at this time.
Heart Aviation's new ES-30 aircraft advisory board includes representatives from 21 airlines, including Air Canada, Air New Zealand, Cebu Pacific, Iceland Air, and United Airlines, among others. United is also committed to the future purchase agreement for up to 100 electric aircraft from Heart Aerospace. The startup has also received letters of intent from SAS, Wide Row, Air Greenland, and Finnair, among others as well. So there's a lot of interest for this, for the ES-30.
This is most certainly interesting news, especially following United's order of electric aircraft from Eve Air last week. The electric aircraft industry is taking off this decade as more airlines and manufacturers make sustainable and green fuel a priority. That being said, though, an increase in business class aviation is expected throughout the decade. But first, we hope you're enjoying today's episode. If you are, please consider subscribing to our show, leave a 5-star review, and leave me a comment. Adiation Central is a bigger community than just this podcast. We also maintain a YouTube channel, Instagram page, and if this sounds interesting, you can find us at www.adiationcentral.com and discover more awesome content throughout the week from us. Thanks for listening so far, and we'll be back in a moment.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. Recent update from the Vantage Market Research is forecasting a strong growth for the global business jet market. The report is showing a 42% jump in revenue from the $29.3 billion industry in 2021. That's going to go ahead and jump up to $42.7 billion by 2028. Vantage Market Research released a report on business jet market size and trends, anticipating a 6.3% compound annual growth rate as well over the forecast period through 2028.
This expected growth is a result of rapid urbanization, technological advancement, and increased investments in developing countries. Vantage said, this makes the light business jet segment the fastest growing part of the industry. A large part of this has to do with the rebound in Asia-Pacific market, particularly as a region experienced the highest CAGR overall. Increased infrastructure investments anticipated in China, India, and Japan is resulting in significant demand for business jets.
Yeah, and the 42% growth rate through 2028 is a huge increase and will definitely lead to more jobs and opportunities for sure. The rebound in the Asia-Pacific market is also a good sign that the region, that region of the world is since it is well populated. That the fact that we are seeing an increased infrastructure investment, that's definitely a good thing. And there's going to be a lot more opportunities in the world for the aviation industry, especially come in the next decade leading up to 2028. But it's exciting to see what's happening right now. With that, though, we need to head to this week's Aircraft of the Week and Trivia question.
Welcome to this week's Aircraft of the Week. We've selected the SR-71. The SR-71 Blackbird was a United States Air Force reconnaissance plane developed in the 1960s under Lockheed Martin's Skunk work program and entered service in 1966. It is a long-range, high-altitude aircraft capable of flying Mach 3.2, 8-hour threats. The 32 Blackbirds were built and none were shot down due to enemy incidents. In 1976, it set the record for the fastest air-breathing manned aircraft, which the YF-12 held before the Blackbird. One story I like about the SR-71 was the LA speed check story. So a Cessna asked an LA center for a speed check, which was then repeated by a faster aircraft, until an F-18 thought they had ended it as they were going over Mach 1. Over the Pacific Ocean, however, the SR-71 was in the sky, and it ultimately put an end to it when the center read their speed going 1,300 knots per hour. The pilot then responded, "Center, we're showing closer to 2,000 knots." It's a very funny story, and one of my favorite stories. All things must come to an end, though, and SR-71 had its final retirement ceremony in 1988 from the Air Force and 1999 from NASA.
That's right. It's interesting to note that both NASA and the United States Air Force use a Blackbird. First retired from the United States Air Force in 1989, though it was brought back in the early 1990s temporarily before its final retirement in 1998 from the Air Force. Today you can find SR-71s in many different museums and different aviation areas as well, so it's a pretty cool aircraft.
Yeah, well, you seem like a smart guy for now, but let's see how smart you really are for this week's trivia question.
Oh no.
We invite our listeners at home to take a guess as well, and let us know in the comments if you get this right. But this week's question is, what speed is Mach 1 in knots per hour?
Well, see, that one, let's see. Yeah. It's Mach
Tricky,
1
huh?
in knots. Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's 667 knots an hour.
No, it's not.
What is it?
It's 666.739 knots per hour. So you were wrong.
Really?
Yes.
That was like rounding up, though.
Yeah. Oh well.
Wow. Okay. Well, I guess
Get to
we'll
studying.
I guess I'll have to study for next week's question, though. But until then, we're so glad you joined us this morning for episode 3 of the Aviation Central Weekly Show. We hope you've enjoyed today's show. And for more aviation content from us throughout the week, please visit us at www.aviationcentral.com. Find us on Instagram, find us on YouTube, find us wherever you like to enjoy listening to podcasts. But until then, though, thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Adiation Central Weekly Show. We'll catch you guys later.